I'm going to talk a little bit about what I have learned about planning, assessment, and evaluation. Among the first things that I had to do in putting together a plan for assessing learners was I had to recognize that without goals or objectives, we didn't know where we're going, and it'd be very difficult to assess progress toward that. So I first had to establish goals and objectives, and the clearer they were, the easier it would be to uh, assess progress. Uh, Secondly, what I found very interesting was determining the mastery level that I was looking for that would indicate that the learner had progressed through the course adequately. Then it was a matter of designing activities that I could use to get feedback about that progress. Finally, I had to design a plan that would help me to evaluate that feedback. And it had to do with the learner responses to short answer questions, exercises, plans, and discussions. I'll go into it a little bit further later on in this presentation. But these are some things that I went about to plan that learner assessment. I went about planning course evaluation first by researching the need for a course like this, a course for adult Episcopalians who wanted to take their baptismal promises seriously. I began to talk informally with friends of mine, people who were uh, in parishes and congregations, about what they were using for courses like this, and I began to discover that many of them were using outdated confirmation materials. People didn't have materials, or they were making them up on their own, and so there was not any coordination with others about this kind of course. Uh, Secondly, I began to research what's currently available. I looked at books, I looked online, I looked in various places to see what in fact was available for people. And a lot of it was printed material. A lot of it was meant to be used by local congregational leaders as a workbook style or as a lesson plan style. Finally, I created a list of stakeholders and subject matter experts that might be willing, if asked, to participate in the evaluation when at the various stages when that became available. Um, I began to think about a small group of learners that I might want to invite to be part of the beta test, part of that focus group. I still haven't come to a conclusion about who might be willing, who I wanted to ask to observe, to do the couple of the modules in the course while I watch them. But I think that's going to come up. And then finally, part of the plan is to ask for feedback from stakeholders and subject matter experts in a summative evaluation uh, when the course is finished. I have learned a lot in this process. I've learned that assessment and evaluation are essential to the success of a course. It's not a matter of only creating the course itself. It's also being able to assess how people are progressing through it, to find out what could be done to help them, to suggest ways that they could improve their learning. It's also important to take ownership of the reality that the course itself might be an obstacle to learning, so that I might be able to change those pieces. But that has to do with an evaluation of the course. Uh, I learned that assessing learning uh, in courses that involve volunteers is a far more subtle process than than using grades to assess progress. I don't think it'd be helpful to use grades. that's not what people are doing this for. They're doing it for, personal development, ways of helping the organization, the institution, or ways of developing themselves. So giving them feedback from the feedback that I receive will be much more helpful than any grades could be. And I came to the conclusion that the methods of assessment will be much more hands-on, application-oriented, project-based tasks. And I came to the conclusion that the evaluation of the course design is very important. One other thing that, by the way, I came to realize was that identifying and recruiting experienced stakeholders and subject matter experts may not be as easy as I thought it would be initially. Now, the models that I used the models that we learned in class. Kirkpatrick and Smith and Reagan, both of those were extremely helpful. Kirkpatrick, the 4 stages of evaluation were very important to me. Where before, just getting some smile sheets back, did I like the class? Was it comfortable? Was it moving at the pace that I wanted? Those kinds of things were helpful. I've often used lessons learned sheets to find out what it is that people had in fact learned in this class. I also used them as part of the reinforcement at the end of the class so that people could summarize for themselves what they learned. But Kirkpatrick helped me to understand that there's a difference between the response to the learning experience and the behavioral changes that were expected as outcomes. Kirkpatrick helped me to recognize that speaking to the leadership in the congregation about the value of training and education was an important part of putting the class together. That congregations who were going to invest, if not money, then certainly time and resources, they needed to have a clear sense of what they would get in return for this, as well as the individuals themselves. What kind of behavioral changes and experiences and learning could they expect from this? Like I said before, this Kirkpatrick helped me to focus on the notion of behavioral change, not just an awareness and an affective experience. Smith and Reagan, what a wonderful roadmap to how to create an evaluation, beginning with a small group and then a small group focus group, one-on-one evaluation, what I could observe, handing it over to subject matter experts, asking them to participate in a very early stage and then finally at the summative stage as well. It's invaluable what Smith and Reagan have provided. Now, I learned that because this is volunteers that would be taking this course, that the student learning is more about the learning and understanding and being able to apply the learning than it is about being able to demonstrate to me that they have memorized or learned themselves. I also found out, interestingly enough, that inside me, that I have discovered that there's plenty of resistance to the notion of assessment on my part. And maybe this is because of reacting to the kind of assessments that I experienced in many places in the academic world. But it's important to have the kind of feedback in helping me to change my notion of what assessment means. Especially seeing that assessments are not later on, but they are blog posts, wiki creations, and discussion groups. There's good ways to check on the progress of the learner. It's not a matter so much of the quality of the presentation as it is taking a look at the process that the learner is going through as he or she is creating the assignment. Now I know that as I go through the course, as I go through presenting the course and people using it, that I'm going to learn a lot about the effects of assessment on people's progress, and I'm also going to get a lot of feedback on how I can assist them, maybe by changing the course elements, but also just by what it is that I put into the content of it. So lots of learnings that came about in the process of this course for me. I've learned about evaluating course quality because I recognize now that it's essential that I have a group of people to take a look at what the effects are. And I'm really thankful that Kirkpatrick has given such a clear pattern for evaluating the quality of the course. I learned that assessment of what the learners learned is important, but equally important is learning what might have gotten in the way of their learning because of the course design. The level 3, longer term behavioral changes that are being maintained as a result of learning, it's important to know that, and it's not only necessary to know that, but it's also possible that there are tools that can be used to obtain data on what behavioral changes there are 6 to 18 months after the course. And then finally coming up with a way of talking about the benefits that the learning and resulting behavioral changes have bring to the organization that in fact put this course on or used this course. Just having a way to talk about that and realizing that that's an essential part of the evaluation that is ongoing. Those were learnings that I had. Finally, the question comes to mind about who am I going to help? Who am I going to find that will help me do this assessment evaluation? Certainly, I can speak to the clergy that I recruited initially in my initial informal conversations on Facebook. A number of them said, "Get back to us. I'd be happy to talk with you about what you're doing and give you some reactions to what you've done." I have identified some seminary professors locally at Claremont and also in San Francisco who are subject matter experts, and I am willing to approach them to see if they would be willing to participate in this. Diocesan adult education program staff, national staff in education, in the national organization of the Episcopal Church will be helpful. Especially in terms of evaluating the course itself. There are also a number of people like Morehouse Barlow, editor, and editors of a couple of other publication houses that I have spoken to who have given me resources and also said, "Stay in touch. Let's see what happens with this course." I think some congregational volunteers would be very helpful, especially in the focus group process for evaluation. I think that it would be very interesting to find some people at CBU who could bring an interesting perspective to it. Baptismal promises and finding purpose, to me, occupy some common ground. It would be. I look forward to having some interesting conversations with people at CBU about the course. And then finally, as I was putting this together, it occurred to me that that there's a group of people in seminary students will certainly be interesting to ask for feedback, because they are in many ways living in this online world, and they're certainly discovering through their studies what the effect of people who take baptismal promises seriously might be. So I thought these were resources that I'm going to be calling upon. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about some of the things I've learned and some of the things that I plan to do in assessing learners and also in evaluating the course that I'm putting together. Thank you for your attention, and thanks for the opportunity to share with you what I found. I hope you have learned something in the process of this. I certainly have.